Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing The Hunger Games, directed by Gary Ross. We have The Hunger Games Catching Fire, The Hunger Games Mockingjay-Part 1, The Hunger Games Mockingjay-Part 2, and newly released The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. All four of those films directed by Francis Lawrence. I'm starving here, folks. It's going to be an incredible episode here of a deconstruction of a massive book franchise, film franchise of the past decade. So stay tuned and enjoy. Mr. Vincent Daly, how we doing?
Thomas, how's it going?
Are you catching fire this week? How you doing?
Catching fire?
You're starving all week, it looks like.
I'm withering away over here.
The Hunger Games new film is here. It's a perfect five slot.
Perfect five slot. About as perfect as we get. And definitely, I mean, the king of these young adult films really was something that I really didn't care about these movies too much coming into them, though. I mean, I think it was kind of important to get my thoughts down on it, whether it be for a female demographic or just that they're really big, you know?
Yes, big female demographic, but nothing. I think it's more split between like the teens than Twilight was. Like I think when Twilight, or like Crawdads or something like that, pure kind of female audience.
Yeah.
This goes back and forth a little bit, I think, because there's some action there. There's some grittiness to actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's crazy is it's literally, we've only really known the Hunger Games in film for 11 years, and this is the fifth movie, which is just wild, because the first ones came out in 2012, 13, 14, and then 15, which is wild.
And like clockwork with the books. The books are like 08, 09, 010. So
can't say I guess that's how that is.
Yeah, I think it's just the market looking for these young adult movies. They wanted them, and I mean, there was success in the book space as well. So I mean, it's not like they weren't going to make money or anything like that.
I know. It's more so a fact of I like it. I liked knowing that the author actually has a complete direction of where they want to go.
Sure.
This is like Game of Thrones,
absolutely.
Where they got to be like, hey, I need more material here.
What, you're making a game now? Don't you want to finish the books?
it's that whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, but all in all, they're very successful. Of course, this shot Jennifer Lawrence to fame.
Yes.
Because 2012, I forget when Silver Linings Playbook came out. Was that 12 or 13?
I want to say 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
But right around there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is when people were like, she was hot on the scene. I mean, she was very young in 2012. It's just funny. I feel like we've been with Jennifer Lawrence, with J-Law, for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Not really the case.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I guess, didn't she start on a sitcom?
Yeah, she was in the Billingval show.
Oh,
the Bill Engvall show.
Yes, that's right.
And maybe another one.
Which is like...
I had a small crush on her because I watched the Billingval show.
Really?
I had a very brief period.
I was just about to shit on that show.
It's a bad show. Very brief period for me where I was into, what was that comedy round that they did?
Oh,
it was with Larry the Cable Guy, Billingval, Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh, that's right.
And Ron White.
Why can't I think?
Anyway, that clan. I was into that clan for a very brief period.
Right.
But that was during the Billingval show. But yeah, definitely Hunger Games is what
might be a redneck clan.
Yes. Yeah, and then the Hunger Games is what shot J-Law off.
Absolutely.
And she's been with us ever since. Okay, should we just get into it right away? Any opening notes?
No, I kind of have things layered in. So many of these movies are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I will say I tried to walk into this with as much as an open mind as possible, understanding that I'm not exactly the demographic here. I do like the world building. I like the sci-fi spin of it.
Yeah.
Not trying, if something was going to piss me off about these films, maybe just take a half step back, because ultimately, I wasn't reading the books or
Right.
anything like that.
Put the
you know?
fangs away a little bit. Take the claws back.
Take the claws back.
Okay, so two opening things for
Yeah.
me. One, so I did not get a chance to watch any of these.
Okay.
I actually kind of wanted to, but I have seen the first one before.
Okay.
But even today, even at work, I did listen to a lot of content.
Sure.
And went back and kind of timeline stuff.
Okay.
I agree with you where I kind of like the storyline.
Yeah.
I like the whole premise. And I'll say right off the bat, just these films in this PG-13 where teens can go. It's kind of safe still a little bit for 10, 11,
sure.
12-year-olds for their family to go. I like it. I like that kids have this option.
Yeah.
Of something a little bit more rough and tumble.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
Our age. And then my only other question is, did you watch these in order, or how did you watch?
I actually made sure to watch them in order. Not that I think the new one as a prequel mattered so much, but it does. Our main character is basically the big emperor, a bad guy, President Snow.
Okay.
So it was kind of, I wanted to see the end of the saga, if you will.
Okay.
Before having the prequel.
Okay, so you started with just
Hunger
the Hunger Games,
yeah.
and then you ended on the prequel.
Oh, right. Yeah. No. I didn't watch them in chronological in the sense that the new one was first.
Okay,
No.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So with that, let's get into it. You structure these however you want, however fast you want to go.
Right.
Let's start with the OG. This is 2012, PG-13, 2 hours and 22 minutes. These are all over 2 hours, all PG-13.
Yeah.
So that's the lane that we're in.
Yeah,
so everybody
absolutely.
knows. And
Which was not something I was excited to see, but they all kind of blurred together in a lot of ways. So
this is The Hunger Games. And right away, set it up for us a little bit, Vin, and how'd you like it?
Well, I would say where I'm coming into with all of these is that I am on the leash. I'm on the hook for the world building. What I am not on the hook for is, believe it or not, the Hunger Games itself. I feel like the competition elements in all of these, the action just unfortunately falls short, probably as a middle ground and not showing blood in the very violent games themselves.
Right.
They got to do the PG-13 thing, which is totally understandable. And definitely not into the young adult romance triangle that... While I think to the point of watching all 5 of these movies, I was kind of fooling myself to say, "Oh no, but it's a sci-fi." No, it's definitely like a love triangle. So it's a teen romance. Our director Gary Ross has a limited filmography. 2 films I want to note real quick: Seabiscuit in 2003, which. A movie I just kind of wondered if anyone remembered anymore.
I feel like Seabiscuit had a moment.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well, that's the thing.
We'll revisit Seabiscuit next
For you
week.
and I with Seabiscuit, back when we were craving World War I movies,
Yeah.
before all the World War I movies came out, we would always go back to, Seabiscuit.
We gotta go Seabiscuit.
And then horse movies.
Yeah, just
Seabiscuit would come out. Yeah.
that and War Horse.
Yes, exactly right. Yep.
And his latest and last film, the fine winner of the Tommy Flip Flop, Ocean's 8.
Oh no! He did Ocean's 8.
He did Ocean's 8, and then hasn't made a movie since. So, I honestly, I don't know if he's dead. I don't know if he's in a ditch somewhere. I don't know.
Hey, there's new word that Ocean's 9 is rumbling.
No way. Of course it is. This comes only 2 years after the conclusion of Suzanne Collins' trilogy of young adult novels. Folks, The Hunger Games, once again, and why I was interested in this on a surface level is I think it's good for the ongoing study of covering everything. The Hunger Games is a great lesson in striking while the iron is hot. Adapting these into movies came just in time to fill the power vacuum after the Twilight series was wrapping up in 2012. Nonetheless, this coming out on top with plenty of competition. The peer young adult series of Maze Runner and Diversion all sharing a sci-fi spin to kind of cannibalize the market.
Yep.
And of course, this includes just constant criticism online of the movies and the books ripping off the premise of a battle royale from the Japanese cult classic Battle Royale. Which honestly feels inescapable in comparison to this first movie. The later movies move away from it, actually, and kind of become a blob of what the space feels like. And we also see that in our director switch up as you rattled off in the beginning very skillfully.
This Gary Ross fellow, they probably saw the writing and they could kick this guy.
Kicked him out.
Because Francis Lawrence, this has really become his baby.
Absolutely.
This material. Yeah.
Absolutely. In a partnership with Collins. So good stuff to see. And again, more than anything, I believe, though this, you could discount this and say, oh, it's just a popcorn film. Oh, it's just a preteen type of, female demographic for these movies. I think there is value in studying anything that is successful to this degree and see what it does well and see what we can take away from it.
Yeah. This has big cultural relevance.
Yeah.
I mean, one, it brought Lawrence to the stage.
Sure.
It does have big actors in it. And all the reasons that you just laid out.
Yeah.
These are very successful. The books are very successful.
Yeah.
It's good to get these on the site.
Yeah.
And all previously unrated, correct?
Exactly.
Like the master list and everything.
Yeah,
Crap
absolutely.
Space.
This was kind of a black hole for me in watching film. And not that I would, again, watch these normally, but I really wasn't watching a lot of movies during this time, especially in like 2012, 2013.
Sure, okay.
In the Hunger Games, we see 12 impoverished districts all coughing up 2 tributes, 24 total, to compete in a death match where only one remaining will stand. Jennifer Lawrence plays Katniss Everdeen, a stubborn but virtuous teen girl who volunteers as tribute to save her randomly chosen younger sister. We are thrusted into a dystopian capital of Panem, and we see their twisted view of reality as the 74th Hunger Games looms over our children contestants. The children's spin, the Battle Royale spin, it has bite to it. I feel like knowing how the action plays out, I can't give it a lot of credit because it shies away from the implied gore, the implied viciousness of things. But I feel, to your point, Tom, in a preteen audience, this hits really hard. I feel like the violence here is all you need to really be about this series if you are, younger and watching this.
I think one reason why this strikes well with me, the whole premise is, this very just reminds me of, and I don't think we've gotten a decent movie, because I think Ice-T was in the only film that came out. But this is like a kid version of The Most Dangerous Game. It's man hunting man.
Absolutely.
Essentially. And that premise is always going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always in.
Yeah.
And so I think adapting it for kids, I'm very pro.
Yeah, pro Hunger Games. I'm in support of running the Hunger Games in real life. This being a teen competition story, though, we have to sit through many, many training sequences to kind of set up our MTV-style challenge with a bloody spin. Once we get into the competition, however, that's where things play out a lot more generically. I feel like the shittiest thing about this first one in particular is that the Hunger Games itself is probably the least interesting thing the movie does, because the action is so held back. Mainly, I think it all ties into some floppy rules of the game that could be used much better to crank up tension just in a screenplay or for the plot of it. One rule bend in particular feels incredibly stupid, where they basically just change the wind conditions out of nowhere twice. They flop back and forth. It's the Tommy flip-flop.
So you don't like, so people who aren't quite aware of it, this battle royale thing of the kids, they're in a controlled, manufactured ecosystem.
Yes,
that can be controlled by what is the higher class called?
I actually don't know. They like the aristocrats. Yeah, I don't know what they would be called specifically.
But anyway, the game makers and the real rule decision people, they can, on a whim, can change weather and drop crazy things into the arena, essentially.
Yeah, there's an interesting economics to these early ones where it's about spin. It's about perception in these games and how likable you are, which, again, in addition to the world building, in addition to the sci-fi aspects, that's what I love the most about it, and where it played into some excitement, even for the new release, being in the, if you will, the heydays of the Hunger Games. So
that surprises me.
It did.
I thought you would have been all about the battle royale. I was like, let's see some kids go after each other.
Let's see some bloodless. I thought so too. The scenes, they're just super weak action wise.
Yeah.
Katniss does not, as a character, and I agree with this. I don't want her to be a war hero or anything like that. Katniss does not want to kill. The majority of these kids don't want to kill. So I feel by making that line in the sand, you automatically make your other teens that are eager, like just kind of like really loosely written sociopaths and psychopaths, like bloodthirsty psychopaths. So like that's weak. And it has almost like an Ender's Game vibe where it's like the competition is like, all right, we see who's the best.
That's a great comparison, actually.
Yeah.
'Cause that was a huge disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I think in when we're actually in the Hunger Games, it doesn't have as much bite as this premise, this summary would let on.
Right.
know?
Okay.
So,
and you said specifically of the first one, and I could almost give this a longer leash too because you're easing into the audience. Almost.
Sure, different director too, hasn't hit the stride.
Right, and with all these films coming out, it's as the games kind of need to get more and more crazy. For us as an audience watching these films, you need to amp it up a little bit as well.
Absolutely. And that's really why Catching Fire was a good time. I'll make note of it, but I like the cranked up stakes a lot in Catching Fire. I have to say, as a positive, I really did enjoy J-Law's performance and the character itself of Katniss. She is principled, she is well defined through the many scenes that test her character. I think of how this movie is structured, pretty much all of them are structured around testing the virtue of Katniss's character, what she will stand up against and what she will put up with. On the other hand, such a strong character work, almost every other teen performance is just terrible. I mean, this is where the Ender Game kind of aspect comes into play.
Like the main kid, wherever he came, the main guy.
Oh, Peeta.
Yeah.
Well...
You like him?
No, but he's not the main guy. My shorthand for the Hunger Games is Katniss wants 2 boyfriends. But we'll get into that. But yeah, everyone is just really, it's not a good performance. There's just such an annoying arrangement of psychopathic assholes that it's just easily my least favorite part about the film.
And it all kind of is just watered down because everyone's trying to be over the top. I would say the one successful over the top person is Stanley Tucci.
Absolutely. We'll get into
Okay. We love the Tucci.
Pretty much anything around the government, Pan Am, the evil empire, I'm down.
And Pan Am, just to say again, Pan Am is the world that we're in.
Yes, Pan Am is basically the nation of the Hunger Games, which is a capital and 12 districts.
Okay. And is it pronounced like the old airline?
No. It's a Panem. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I thought that was maybe a tie, actually. I was theory crafting on the sci-fi
from the airline.
Yeah. I thought because I thought it was dystopia. Maybe there was this. I don't know.
This is supposed to
this capitalistic, consumer centric. I don't know, but no, not at least in the movies. I didn't find anything. But that's the nation.
Okay, I took you off a tangent there, but back to performances. Everyone pretty much fails.
Teen performances fail.
Yes.
I like all the adults, especially how hammy the villainy is in this.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, and I may get crucified for this. This is not too unlike Star Wars as far as how much of a evil empire we're up against, rebellion type of brewing.
Definitely.
I mean, as much as probably Star Wars nerds, myself included, would want to deny that, but it really is a very similar structure here.
Well, they take so much of the same premises.
Yeah.
Right. You have people trying to be heavily governed by an ultra powerful group of people.
Exactly.
And then you have the rebellion.
Yeah. And just such
rebels,
a clear-cut evil empire, that they're up against. So my hope with among the teen performances, and this is kind of a little bit stretch across at least these first 4 films, the main trilogy. My hope was we were going to get a good matchup in these movies, that there would be a fun rivalry or something like that. Unfortunately, nothing came. I was looking for, out of the fodder, out of the token assholes that are obviously going to die in the Hunger Games, that
the red
Katniss
shirts.
would, it's bingo. Katniss would have one sharpshooter, maybe she uses a bow as well, and there would be some rivalry that's never really explored in any of these, which is a bit disappointing. It certainly doesn't come from second love interest played by Josh Hutcherson and his, I kid you not, cake decorating skills. There's a scene that's a jump scare that is very unintended as a jump scare in this movie, where he perfectly camouflages himself with a rock because of these cake decorating skills, and it's just like, what? But honestly, folks, I didn't think this was an outright bad film. For me, where the action and the main beats of the film were lacking, I really did enjoy the dystopian aspects to this. Everything around running the game, the society itself is pretty great and kept me engaged out of curiosity to see where things were unfolding, to get more nuggets. I feel like here's where we see the real standouts in supporting cast. Stanley Tucci as a... as cartoonish as possible game show host. Lenny Kravitz as this aristocrat fashion designer. Like cool roles and cool casting decisions as well. I really enjoyed that. Believe it or not, we'll continue even into the very newest one. We get some very interesting cast decisions, which I cannot wait to talk about. This is where it makes up for the teen nonsense because you have semi-big actors like Donald Sutherland, maybe not a name you really associate with, but the dude's been acting for a very long time.
He's a name.
Yeah.
Tucci's a name.
Absolutely.
What's the smoker, the weed smoker that everyone loves? Woody Harrelson's a name.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Banks is always peppered in somewhere, making
right a loose connection to Ocean's 8. I think she was around Ocean's 8. I think she wrote maybe.
Are you sure she didn't direct Ocean's 8? Oh, no, I'm thinking Charlie's Angels.
Oh, yep.
You're thinking Charlie's Angels too?
Ditto, yep. Ditto. No connective tissue. Scratch that. But yeah, the supporting cast
saved it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and added to that enjoyment of this dystopian society we're unpacking over all these teen movies. I think them being focused constantly around image and sponsorship and this kind of age of spin mentality in how the games are run. That's super interesting. It has depth there, and it's something that even though I wasn't about the Hunger Games when they were playing out, I was still paying attention and had my interest for that reason. If there's anything keeping me on the leash, it's unpacking that world building. I think this is a double-edged sword because as much as I like the sci-fi spin, as much as the action seems to be the point, it's actually about the love triangle. And this romance is what will drive the series forward, and it's why it's able to fill the genre space in the first place. We're going to go ahead and give The Hunger Games 2012 a 63.
Okay, 63. And we're going to see, that's, I think, a good jumping off point. I think there's some things that hit, and then, like you said, we'll see how things progress a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you are just working off this first one now. So I'm excited to see where these numbers go, honestly. I really don't know. I don't know anything of how you're going to feel about these.
Yeah.
You had made one comment, and you were like, it was nice watching these.
Sure.
It was nice to just know that you had these 5 films to watch.
Yes.
All kind of related. Really one big movie, kind of.
Exactly.
So
I actually found it very easy to marathon a little bit. I did basically Mockingjay all together, and then this and Catching Fire together.
Oh, cool.
So,
see, yeah, all right.
They're that maybe deserves some credit. As far as what a new viewer. If I happen to be successful at recommending The Hunger Games, to someone that hasn't seen it, they might enjoy that aspect.
Cool. All right. So, like I said, we are jumping right from 2012. These are all in sequential order. So, this is 2013 right away. This is The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. You already said that you kind of like this one.
Yeah.
This is now directed by Francis Lawrence, who's just taking the helm on all the rest of these now. So, Catching Fire. How do we come back to the second film, and how'd you like it?
Pretty much everything you want in a sequel has a good playbook to how to make this sequel, is in that you basically take every aspect that was working in the previous one and amping it up and maybe cutting some fat. And actually one area that I think is very strategic is that they cut teen combatants from this. Which is one of the most exciting things I've seen in watching a movie back to back. So I was like, hey, listen, they
fixed their problems.
Yeah, someone else was saying this somewhere during 2012 and 2013. Like you said, director-wise, Francis Lawrence is basically the creative lead for the series here. Under his belt is our TV afternoon gems like I Am Legend and Constantine. And I was excited to crack into this because this is obviously his most famous films now. This is a direct sequel, so I'll try my best to stay away from spoilers the best I can, but most obvious here is that Katniss is still around to fill a trilogy of movies. Right. And a movie about one man surviving.
Right,
so,
right.
Catching Fire deals with the aftermath of the 74th Annual Hunger Games and how rebellion spurs in many of the 12 districts. How this hasn't happened before is anyone's guess. That's where early on, I was watching this. I was like, how the hell did no one was like for 74 years, like they were just taking this atrocity, these messed up games and being all right with it. I don't know. But that's why I kind of reeled it back. I'm like, all right, let me just pay attention to the ride instead of picking a fight out of the gate. We spend a huge amount of time clocking up the menace of President Snow's tyrannical government, played by Donald Sutherland, and a very good job. Among that tyrannical government is Philip Seymour Hoffman, talking a big game as the new right-hand bad guy. But I gotta say, really underwhelming with Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance. Yeah,
I was excited to see that he was in this one.
Yeah, very bittersweet. We needed more Mission Impossible 2. We needed more bomb in head
3, yeah.
mentality. yeah, Mission Impossible 3. We needed more. Put a bomb in your head. We needed that.
And real quick, that one that's really surprised me actually. You'll get into it more. Just Philip Seymour Hoffman. You see, this is gonna elevate it 10 points right here.
For sure. What I wanted it to be. Unfortunately, I think in the timeline, he died in February of 2014. His involvement is a lot more heavy-handed in Mockingjay Part 1 and 2.
Okay.
But they straight up just pull a Carrie Fisher in some sequences where they're just digitally inputting him. In this one,
not in this one.
In Catching Fire, that's where it's a critique. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to kick him.
But if it came out in 13,
yeah,
filming probably in 12,
yeah,
and maybe even 11,
right?
But you're still thinking, what's the deal?
Maybe like a decline of his health, or even his attention because it was an overdose. But that's why it is a criticism in Catching Fire because he's fully in a lot. Of how the plot moves forward and him kind of being almost like a worm tongue in Sutherland's ear.
That's his character. Okay,
which is now shorthand for a character type. It was just disappointing for that reason.
Okay.
All things being self-contained in just Catching Fire.
Yeah, it also sounds kind of just like his character is just like, he could never be the biggest baddie.
Because
he was second to the biggest baddie, Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Before I let you run with this, when exactly one ends, right? One ends and then Catching Fire starts, and we're like next day, next year,
to the point of it's a victory lap to all the districts of what we're kicking off with.
Gotcha.
So,
all right.
Yeah. Both President Snow's and Hoffman's character, I forget his name. I think it was something. They got weird names in this. They got almost Harry Potter-esque names that they're needlessly visual. I think
Plutarch or Plutarch.
Yep. What's his last name? Heavensby? No.
Heavensby. Yeah, Heavensby.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I again, minor point. Have a bone to pick with some of the names, but no, we're going to move. This is way too much to cover. Heavensby and Snow both having equal frustration with their new problematic icon from District 12 spur on a devilish idea for the upcoming Hunger Games Championship. A championship round, wrangling in bigger threats and inescapable for our girl on fire. Gotta say, this all-star spin felt good. I was all about it. I was about it in a very popcorn, campy way. They basically took my criticism for these shitty teen combatants that don't have a chance and are just annoying on screen and play in very cliche ways, and they made these fun legend characters that we get to unpack on screen. They all have specialties. They're all from different districts and are legends in themselves. And straight up, I mean, this type of competition arc is what works in countless mainstream shonen animes of just being, you get cool characters on screen. They all have powers and they're up against our hero. And I really enjoyed this movie for that reason. As the sequel stakes are punched up more and more in this, it's in a satisfying way. It's not for any sake, but diverting from a playbook of, hey, how do we make a sequel? We take everything that works and we clock it up. And I think it works in a big way for that reason. Does this hold up once all the games get started? Not quite. But it added to a layer of taking that training arc, taking our introductions of why are we doing Hunger Games again, and this like all-star round. I was all about it. It was very fun.
And in the lore of this world, in this Pan Am world, basically, it's my understanding that there's quarters or sectors where it's every 25 years.
Yes.
It's like a big moment for the games.
Yep.
So the 50 was a big one, and now the 75th one, which is this.
Bingo.
It's like, how do we amp it up?
Exactly.
This is how they amp it up.
Yep.
It's purposeful, right?
And again, it's in the strategy, it's in the intrigue of the society, of these elites, the game makers, the President Snow, how evil the Empire is of this.
Right.
It's fun because I feel like it's a good idea for how do we possibly try to kill Katniss. Well, she just won. We got to make a championship round. There's no other winners. So.
Very Gladiator-esque.
Yeah.
Very much so. Where it's just like, let's just keep on throwing everything at we got at it.
Exactly.
Because it really is almost like Gladiator, because the reason why this exists is so the elites can watch this.
Absolutely.
It's, right? And there's even like advertising behind it, like
for
let's
sure.
get bigger and bigger. It's cool.
Yeah, the sponsorships, if you want to send water, if you want to send supplies or something. And again, I cannot stress enough, that is where I feel like these movies are really interesting for me, because I like world building. I like unpacking that stuff.
For sure.
Also, with Katniss back in her home district, we are fully able to slip into the implied love triangle of the first film. This is, of course, Peeta versus Gale, or should I say country boyfriend versus emotional boyfriend. Country boyfriend being Gale, actually. I fully understand.
And Liam Hemsworth, correct? We should get...
Yes,
right?
Yes. Liam Hemsworth, and then Peeta is Josh Hutcherson.
Yep.
Yeah, listen, folks, I fully understand that I'm not the target audience for this, but I really do. I really do. But this love triangle for the whole series boils down to Katniss just wanting two boyfriends. To the point that she kisses the other boyfriend in front of the boyfriends and reaffirms love with both of them privately and is just playing them. Like, I'm telling you. When she's around Gale, it's all an act for tricking the Hunger Games and her relationship with Peeta, but Peeta pulls off some of the most snake boy bullshit, cuddling with her, and she has a nightmare and shit. Just didn't like it at all. It just was like, oh, okay. All right. Honestly, this is nowhere close to the romance focus of peer films, and of course, referring to Twilight. But like I said, it is the secret main story, because what drives the plot forward in all of these, and especially we will come back to this for the Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, is the romance. So I can praise all the sci-fi aspects. I can praise, the concept, characters. When it comes down to it, what actually drives the plot forward is the romance, and being Katniss's driving force. Sadly, this film falls short for me in two big ways from being otherwise much, much more positive. First, we got to talk about the writing, because people just announce the dumbest shit imaginable. There are a handful of these really obvious moments just spelled out by characters, like blurring out whatever comes to mind. I think the one was just like, oh, it's a bird, and that means freedom. It's just like, okay, got it, understood. I feel like a lot of the symbolism is easy to understand, but
right, it's a 30-year-old guy.
I guess
you got to dumb it down a little bit.
This is like a baby could grasp.
Spoon-fed. We have to say it's all spoon-fed for us.
For sure. Definitely spoon-fed. The baby food. And countless characters just die in really, really stupid ways. It feels cheap in the rising tension of the plot. And these token deaths, as I'll kind of call them for this whole franchise, are, of course, needed to slim down on the combatants. Not once do any of these films actually utilize its premise of 24, 2 from each. Within the opening moments of all these Hunger Games, they always slim down to like 12 or 10. So it's like, why have it at all? Right. But regardless, we need 24. And, these token deaths are just... they just feel effortless. They feel like, once again, my critique of the rules of the Hunger Game, they feel too floppy. They feel loosey-goosey. And the tension is going to come from understanding the stakes as an audience, understanding the rules as the characters understand the rules. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Action on the second half of that is swapping the Battle Royale for something else, which might not be apparent on the surface. You might look at this and say, oh, it looks like the same type of thing. On the surface, that premise of 24 walk in, 1 walks out, it's there, but moment-to-moment action is closer to a Jumanji-style puzzle or challenge. It's less about Mortal Kombat and more about like survival puzzles. And, this structure will pave the way for how the Maze Runner series, which kind of comes in between of this to hit the same demographic. It'll pave the way for how that feels, which looms around the corner to make sure to be there for any young adult not digging the Hunger Games series. The survival puzzles, again, they're more so environmental. As you said, they can mess with the arena. With like weather and stuff like that. More and more, we lean further and further away from Mortal Kombat and the viciousness of that, and more like, how do we survive as a group? And
that's a shame.
Someone's going to die.
Yeah,
as a result of there can only be so many characters. So much of Catching Fire, though, I think does get it right, and in a lot of ways fits into what I think an ideal sequel should be, especially for a popcorn blockbuster like this. And even though most viewers will be on the hook for the 2-part finale by the end of this, so much of style and proven structure goes out the window for the movies to come. I really do wish more of this series would try to catch fire. We're going to go ahead and give Catching Fire 2013 a 66.
Okay. I have a feeling I know where we're going to be. And a slightly enhanced puddle from maybe the driving movies there again. From
The driving movies that will not be named.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So 66 for The Hunger Games Catching Fire. Let's just keep it going. Next year, 2014, this is The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. And let's start it off right away. So once again, Catching Fire ends. We start, this is picking right up, same day, next day, or we have some time lapse here?
A tiny bit of a time lapse, just because of what we're setting up for what will be the kind of Empire versus Rebellion that is brewing. In the tradition set by the colossal Harry Potter, and as well the Twilight series, we see the final book of this franchise being split up into 2 parts. And I think it's appropriate to touch on this, where it has only increased in popularity in 2023. Spider-Verse and Fast X come to mind.
Oh, just don't forget about all the TV shows that break up their last seasons.
Oh, very true.
Which is the most annoying thing.
Very true.
It's quite aggravating.
Yeah. If I asked my younger self, folks, I would have said I despise this trend. This is probably my least favorite trend, going back to the years that I might have been watching this in 2014 or, and prior.
Are you going back on this?
I don't know. I think I'm going softer at my old age.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I guess where I'm coming from is that as a critic now, I want to keep emotion aside.
Yep.
Be as rational as possible.
Of course.
But also as a critic, I kind of want there to be a function of like, as a singular question, is the 2-parter worth it? For Mockingjay, no, not at all. Not at all.
Like I said, they're both over 2 hours.
Yeah, and
so
honestly,
go ahead.
For the 20 minutes they shave off of the typical 2 hour and 20 or so, they should have just made 1 3-hour film. Could have very easily.
They could have handled everything.
Absolutely. To the point that Mockingjay Part 2 we'll cover in a second. I mean, first 40 minutes are functionally just a recap of Part 1.
Oh, God. Okay.
Or maybe rehash.
So unnecessarily slow.
Yeah.
This Part 1 and Part 2.
I think so. Or more so, not even that slow. It's just a waste. It's going over the same things over and over again, and almost needlessly adding to the pile of what was already apparent to, I feel, the series and viewers of this.
Okay.
As for our setup, the revolution is here, and a hidden communist District 13 is trying to stoke the fires the Mockingjay started. Katniss is surrounded, and I mean surrounded, by death and at her breaking point, but she pushes onward in defiance of President Snow for the good of Panem. For the first time, she's able to see the full horrors of what Snow is capable of, so she embarks on a journey to spotlight the atrocities that are suppressed for so many. And while she plays the role of the Mockingjay for propaganda, her real goals are set on recapturing Peeta from the capital, her long-lost second boyfriend. I think this is a perfect example here. I mean, it's while Katniss, sure, she talks a big game and has a lot of opinions on burn down the Empire and that would land her in this rebellion normally. What actually is driving her forward is just getting Peeta back.
Okay.
While country boyfriend is with her by her side. So supportive. All about that rebel life, And it's just, man, it's just constantly. They need the love triangle. I feel like the screenwriters adapting this story were like, if we don't have the love triangle, they won't pay attention. And I don't think that's the case. I really don't.
I mean, very much the Twilight formula.
Yeah, exactly.
Did we go for Patterson or that other guy who didn't end up making it in Hollywood?
There you go.
Right.
There you go. as the movie played out. Mm-hmm. So, to my disappointment, this movie leans far, and I mean far away from the society intrigue that works so well in the first hour of both of the last films. Both in visuals and ideology, District 13 is a olive drab mess of intentionally lacking personality, but is also impossibly boring to unpack in the story versus the messed up dystopian society and so much depth to how they interact with the Hunger Games as a premise. Due to the rebellion plot, we get a lot more action and military operation sequences, and sadly, once again, action is just not the strong point of this film.
Yeah.
Not the strong point of our director either. And I think that's totally fine. You don't have to make an action film, but it is an action film. That's what it is, an action film. Katniss's primary action as a character is being paraded with a film crew to muster support on two levels. It just doesn't work for the plot or character arc. This was probably most disappointing because by splitting up the part 1 and 2, we are not testing Katniss in the way that the writing has been so strong. Mm-hmm. I gotta really say, the writing is strong around creating the hero of Katniss Everdeen, testing her, defining her through the challenges she's overcome. And here, it's watered down in probably the worst way possible, that it's just like she's not tested at all. There's nothing gained. There's no good information. There's no development here in this part 1, and that's why it's a little bit of a waste.
Okay.
So, most idiotic of all is continuing this romantic tension with Peeta and Gale. Man, oh man, like I said, poor country boyfriend Gale. He finally gets Katniss all alone, and she cares about just saving Peeta. The fact that the rebellion then cares about Peeta at all is mind-bendingly stupid as a singular asset and all the things they have to worry about. And it's the only bargaining chip that Katniss has to sway the plot. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want J-Law to suddenly become a military killer soldier. She's got a high body count. That's not the arc of the character. That would be much, much worse.
Right.
But at the
she doesn't like to kill.
No, she doesn't.
Right.
She's trying to avoid war. She's trying to avoid killing. Just how she wanted to. Her arc is perfectly demonstrated in how she volunteered for tribute to save her sister. The only reason why she has any care in this war plot and these meetings and these council meetings is she's just like, oh, but we got to get Peeta, right?
It gets obnoxious.
And then Peeta's also absolved of any crime, right? And it's just like, what? Why would they care? He's a teenage boy, and this is Civil War. Also, I'm fine with a drastic change in how a movie feels as a sequel, but this movie has none of the same strengths as previous films and feels different in a way that just doesn't work, flat out doesn't work. Scenes are war-focused and have so little to do with testing Katniss's character, like I said, that, despite this Mockingjay persona being larger than ever, character moments for Katniss are quite slim, actually. I feel the amount of scenes that we get where J-Law is just walking around jaw-dropped at the atrocities around here are just overkill. It's like, I get it.
Right. It's too much.
Yeah, I get it. And that's really where I return to that question, is the two-parter even worth it? Over half the film beats us over the head in saying Empire bad, and I'll say some scenes are striking, but it's also the lesson we learn for 2 whole ass movies. I know the Empire's bad.
It's very true. From the get-go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know Katniss hates the Empire. I don't need this. This isn't the writing that I saw in the previous 2 films. And I can't really blame Collins for it because it's clearly not her. The books are 1, 2, and 3. It's not this 2-part stretch. So
you think they're stretching out her source material?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's why I have a bone to pick pick with that trend in the first place, because it's like, no, this doesn't need to be stretched out. It pains me to say it's a waste, especially when we get some really fun, hammy moments with Donald Sutherland playing President Snow again. But yeah, it's a waste. These two movies, like I said in the beginning, with runtime slimming down to 2 hours, could have just been a single 3-hour film. The whole plot just seems so disconnected from characters, and to me, stylistically, the film fails by embracing a more generic rebellion as its new subject. We're going to go ahead and give Mockingjay Part 1 a 40 on the dot.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're really not that big of a fan.
I
almost... Go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, I almost felt like this might have had the most juice going for you because I know how much you love Star Wars. And this is really...
This is where the war is happening.
The rebellion is here, and it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, I think it was Poe that said the line, I think it was Poe, but the tighter they grip, the more kind of seeps out of the fingers.
Interesting.
And that's where I feel like that this is where this film is at.
Yeah.
Where, okay, we're getting ready now.
Sure.
But I guess there's no Death Star, so we just have to. We're really the Death Star is PETA, and the savior of PETA.
Interesting, maybe. I will just maybe.
Okay, so let's keep it rolling here. So next year, 2015. This is the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. This one's a little bit longer. This is like your 2.5 hour.
I think it's still 2. Yeah, I think the new one is 2.5 hours.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, 2:17. The other one was 2:03. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yes.
Regardless, Part 2, where are we ending up here? And how'd you like it?
Well, I think this was better in the way that a conclusion to anything like this. It's cathartic. Yeah, exactly. It's the finale. I mean, if you're not gonna like the razzle dazzle, then do you like it at all?
Right.
I suppose my bone to pick with this film is it's the film that killed Philip Seymour Hoffman, but sadly it does mark the last time he would be in a film. Like I said earlier in the reviews, dying in February 2014, and again, more than anything, kind of bittersweet. His character has a serious role to play in all of these, and obviously it is a very hard dice roll if you have the passing of an actor. We covered this with a good handful of movies, actually, even on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Them kind of digitally switching them out as they did with Carrie Fisher in those Disney Star Wars movies, it just doesn't look good. And it's a good while earlier in the tech.
Oh, this tech is early on. Yeah. Because the Star Wars, this is 2015. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the first time we see it almost in The Force Awakens, I believe. Yeah. Where we see it with that one general for only sheer moments.
Sure.
And then we go back to the classic 2010 Tron is what really went after this with Jeff Bridges.
Good catch, that is. And Disney as well, because they're probably pioneering this stuff.
Right.
Wow.
So it's just real early on in the tech. Now, like Tron goes hard with de-aging with Jeff Bridges, like paving the way.
Yeah.
But I just think with Seymour Hoffman, it would really look out of place in this film.
Yeah, he just looks like a quiet monk, just like inserted into the corner of scenes, because it was clearly like maybe even like a slowed footage of him just like chilling.
Right. Yeah. B cuts, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, my heart goes out to a production. You make the best of it, make the best you can, especially with someone so pivotal. But yeah, something that kind of was bittersweet in looking at this. Mockingjay Part 2 is nearly identical to Part 1 for the first 40-minute runtime, further proving it really should have just been one movie. Seriously, identical beats are put in front of us that mostly are pulled off better than all of the beats in Part 1.
Okay. Again, makes sense.
Yeah.
It's this way it should be.
Yeah. True. Right. I'm glad that it wasn't like, it didn't like split it and pepper Part 1 with some of the good the better moments of Part 2.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that they split it up at all. I kind of can't get over it because of how much I kind of believe that you don't even need to watch Part 1 to continue on to this movie.
Oh, well, like you said, the first 45 minutes are catch up anyway.
Exactly. It's catch up. It's also rehash in the sense that like Katniss sees similar types of atrocities of war and has a similar takeaway for her arc as a character. One in particular towards the beginning of the story beats anything stylistically of Part 1 and could really, just be shorthand for skipping that movie entirely. And if anything, while encouraging skipping Part 1, I found myself a little actually numb watching these back to back in the better moments of the film after seeing Jennifer Lawrence's sad face crying over war atrocities so many times. I was actually numb to the more heavy parts of the film later on.
Makes sense.
Because it was like, wow, I mean, they're putting this girl through hell. So much trauma on her. And could be powerful. It doesn't hit. I really, numb is the word that comes to mind.
It totally makes sense with watching it back to back too. I can only imagine if you're a 15-year-old girl and you're waiting a year in between films.
Right.
Hits again. Yeah, maybe hits
true.
again. Again, for you watching back to back
As a 15-year-old girl. But maybe that was my bad for watching them back to back.
No, come on, no.
But I if I really had to die on the hill of actually skip part one and go against the intended watching list of it, is that in that first 40 minutes, I mean, without going into it and really breaking down every beat, I feel like so much is just a rehash of to get us in the same mood that Katniss would be in after a movie of seeing the same war atrocities. And stylistically, they're better. They hit harder. They're better, thematically.
Yep.
But that's where I'm coming from on that. Now recaptured from the clutches of President Snow, Peeta returns in quite possibly one of the boldest but also oddest character arcs possible. And this is what I was referring to with part one, that it's very different. You know, I can't blame these films for just rehashing the same idea again and again. Peeta returns as being a victim of PSYOP torture that his...
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. Listen, it's bold. It's a little out there and striking. Honestly, it angered me on so many levels. Not only is he a risk to the rebellion, keeping this sleeper cell asset, and not only is he included in the most asinine ways imaginable, they put this boy, on a leader council at one point, and it was just like, no, what? It doesn't even make sense. He is still seen as above all of this, he's still seen as a valid romantic partner for Katniss that we will endure to the very end. Of the 12 things this film tries to juggle in its conclusion, this is by far the worst. I don't want to tear into this too much because I still haven't read the books, and maybe there was more depth there in... how the rebellion was operating or something like that.
Their books, I think you can assume that.
Sure.
Their books.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but wow, I just... The note for a while... I had 3 lines written for Mockingjay-Part 2, and was sweating how much I didn't think about the film. This movie was wow stupid as one of the things, because it was just for Peeta's involvement. But as far as kind of this rewash, we see Katniss go through the same things that took 2 hours to tell, and until the story is actually doing something of significance, it actually is moving. We see Katniss finally going rogue within the rebellion to stop things herself, living up to her character, living up to the stubbornness and her principles. Until she does that, it's identical to the plot in part one. Finally, the movie gives our girl the agency she needs to prove that she can be a leader and to have a meaningful character development for the first time in a whole movie. From all the trauma that is poured on her between these two films, the story betrays her character by having her do nothing about it, which is not her character. She's spurring into action. Without reading the books, once again, I don't understand if this was intended by Collins or not, but until she goes rogue, there was nothing to like about her previous very solid character work. Again, that military operation action scenes come up and are not great, but the film remixes some of the stylings to give us survival puzzles like we saw in Catching Fire. which I think is good. Once again, we're with this like propaganda squad. They're traveling through the war-torn capital. The game makers, if anything, what you were kind of asking about earlier, what is their, the high elites.
Right, those elitists. Yeah.
Exactly. That are running the Hunger Games and whatnot. Their inventions for the Hunger Games are kind of turned into vicious obstacles designed to dwindle the huge cast of secondary characters. And once again, at least it's kind of a return to form. Part 1, Mockingjay, doesn't even resemble this series in a lot of ways.
It's scattered.
At least this is kind of moving towards, again, what our characters are being confronted with in a story structure sense. Are these like survival puzzles?
Yeah, are they getting back to the Hunger Games?
Exactly.
Type of deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least, without actually running, the formal Hunger Games, they're up against Hunger Games like challenges.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I found myself questioning the logic of some of these more than other films in the series, but I'll dial back my criticism of it because it really is far better than forcing Katniss to be, a war-killing machine and also betraying her character further by having her not do anything and throwing constant trauma at her. Overall, this conclusion is not great, unfortunately, and surprisingly doesn't stick the landing. I want to say, if I was reviewing this back in 2015, I might hope future franchises would learn a lesson from this, but clearly that's not the case. There's still plenty of part 2s.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. I know. It's like they're getting more popular, which is really annoying.
Exactly. There's just such a muddy message told in the countless lives affected by the Civil War in Pan Am, with many characters having no clue how to get their own thoughts together over it. But by this point, I should say, I wasn't even mad about it, despite loving some of the world building and wanting to see how grand the story would end. I wasn't mad because I realized what the story was about, and all of you will realize it too if you watch this movie when the final moments focus on the romance. And you'll consider that the whole series was being driven by that all along. We're going to go ahead and give Mockingjay Part 2 a 49.
Wow, 49. I wonder how good it would have been if you combine, so this is like 4.5 hours, 4 hours and 20 minutes. If you combine these two, like you said, to 3 hours,
sure,
you're cutting a full 60 minutes, shaving off of time now.
Yeah.
So much less backstory you have to deal with. How much snappier, how much more would each minute hit?
Sure.
Minute over minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope that the newest Mission Impossible coming out is not going to have the same issue. We're hoping that has a lot of punch.
Oh, of course. How could I forget that with the
not a lot of punch.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah. How could I forget? That is another huge Part 1 and Part 2. So
we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna see more of it too.
Yeah.
And all right, Ben, before we get into our new releases, we are just going to go ahead and go into our producer segment because we have a producer for today.
Excellent.
And we have a very good friend of the show, a very good producer. We have Matt D coming in. So who do you think Matt's going after this week? This is a new fun game. Who's
he going after?
Yeah. He's got his knives out on either one of us, I'm sure.
I think it's going to be you.
Yeah, you got the last one. Okay, Matt D writes, Tom, this one's for you. He goes, I have to call bullshit on something that has been bothering me for weeks now. And I have to admit, I read this before.
Yeah.
I got nervous. I actually got nervous
First time
when I heard this. Yes. Have to call bullshit on something that has been bothering me for weeks now. I hope you can clear up this irreconcilable contradiction. It's well documented that you have trouble staying awake for movies. Comedy, action, 4-hour-long movie, 90-minute movie, it doesn't matter. You'll fall asleep.
The Tommy narcolepsy.
He goes, yes! You continue to talk about how much you enjoyed the 3.5-hour-long snore fest that is The Irishman. How can this be? Is it possible you slept through Act 2 and didn't realize? Maybe you woke up after 90 minutes, finished the film, and thought, wow, that was a snappy 3.5 hours. Scorsese did it again. P.S. After you answer this, can you ask Vin what, in his opinion, is the greatest achievement in cinema history?
Wait, what? This is a heavy question anchoring that.
Thank you both. Enjoy the show, as always.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much.
So, okay. I love The Irishman. I don't know what it is.
You didn't know you were giving a hot take when you said that on that episode.
And I've said it in multiple episodes.
Yeah.
Here's the biggest thing. This is everyone listening, Matt D. So pre-podcast, I would have time to watch movies. Now it's 11:30.
I'm exhausted.
I finish up the newsletter and I think, all right, let's see how long I could last into Kong Skull Island. I really do. I love The Irishman. I think it piques my interest. What can I say? Just like that. And again, Snorefest. If anything, Killers of the Flower Moon is more of a snowfest than The Irishman. By the way, I've watched the extended version of The Irishman.
There's an extended version?
I think there's an extended version. It's 4.5 hours.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
Unreal.
Anyway, so, I don't know. I gotta tell you, I just like the movie, and it was pre-podcast.
True.
Still, when I watched it since the podcast, too, and I think I stayed awake for it. Yeah, anyway, I mean, what can I say? It's Scorsese, I'm into it. Maybe it's a Scorsese thing. Because Killers of the Flower Moon, no issue.
Right.
No issue.
It's just
I go in and watch Indiana Jones. I got the gummy nerds trying to get the sugar in me just to stay awake.
Just to stay away from Dial of Destiny. That's so funny. We'll have to put Silence to the test. Silence is that movie that he did about the monks in Japan.
Been dying to watch it.
Really?
Well, because, I really feel like people, and me included in this, kind of think that Liam Neeson is really kind of B. We all love him, but he's a B actor.
He's kind of,
He had such a punch with the, 1994's Schindler's List.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
93, something like that.
But he's become that.
He's become the Taken guy.
Post-Taken, yeah.
And it's a shame, I think, because I feel like he's got chops.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess that's my answer to that, Matty. I don't know if that's good enough for you, but basically, I guess I really like those movies, so it's easy to stay awake.
Across genre, everything.
Even if I like a movie, there's still a chance I'm going to be falling asleep to it.
It's true.
But anyway,
Tommy narcolepsy.
P.S. After you answer this, can you ask Vin what, in his opinion, is the greatest achievement in film history?
You put that so succinctly as well.
I thought he was saying, when I first read it, I skimmed it. I thought he was saying that this is me staying awake for these movies.
Oh, all right.
It's the greatest achievement. No. So what do you think the greatest achievement in all of film history is?
Rain check on this. I cannot say this off the cuff for the internet.
How about you bring it next week?
I'll get torn apart.
How about you bring it next week?
All right, maybe. I don't. That's real.
What do you say? Sound in film?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, greatest. We have to. That's too much.
Okay, yeah. We could spend 3 hours on that.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Then he goes, thank you both. Enjoy the show as always. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Matt D. I didn't even say it. His donation was a movie ticket to you, Vin.
Excellent.
So $11.75, the national average of the movie ticket in 2022. That's how we roll here. So a few things I want to bring up specifically for this episode. One, if we have new listeners or people haven't heard the spiel before, which for every show we take a break here to thank our producers who produced the show, this episode. The idea is we're completely producer supported. We're not going to rely on advertising money. And we like to think no matter how big we get, no matter how popular we get, we don't want to treat you as the product. We don't want to shill a bunch of products to you, and then that gives us money from advertising companies. And it's kind of a messy thing. We're not going to care about the products. We're basically lying to you, and we're all about growing the advertising base or just getting more and more listeners so we can take all those download numbers and go pitch it to advertising companies.
Yeah.
Like, you actually become the product. Another thing is that this is a big through line to you. The people who actually care about the show will continue to care about the show and show us what value they're getting. And that's why we call it the value for value model. Matt D, he is continually producing the daily ratings. And through that, he is letting us know how much value he's getting.
Sure.
We don't have paywalls or anything like that where a Patreon does, where you have to give $10 a month, $50 a month, and get different packages. We give you more content with more money. Technically, it's all here. It's all free for you. But if you're getting value from what we're doing here, we do the podcast once a week, obviously. We host it. We also run the website on the other side. It's a companion piece to this, where we're literally building our own database, our own Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb alongside the podcast.
Absolutely.
It's very time-consuming, but it's pretty cool. And if you're not loving Rotten Tomatoes because everyone kind of bitches about them, you have another place to go to. Is that valuable for you? Are you critiquing your own movie lists or making your own movie lists? Are you about film more now than what you were before you were listening to the podcast? Or are you stopping by once a week with us and having fun? That's value in your pocket. We ask you, can you give us some value in our pocket? You go to thedailyratings.com. You go, well, kind of. This is what I'm... I have to change my spiel.
Here's the part two.
The point is, you donate to the show, to the Daily Ratings, and through your donations, you become a legit actual producer of the Daily Ratings. It's just like Hollywood. If you're going to give us money, you're a producer. Matt D, he's the only producer this week, so he is the executive producer of episode 109. The reason why I usually say go to the donations tab on the Daily Ratings. So we have fun amounts there. We have set donations, like one-timers with their own names, and we might even have a monthly set up and a weekly. The problem is we're having some technical difficulties on our donation page right now. For those of you who've really been listening for a long time, you know how difficult it was setting this page up and how much of a hassle that was. It's been running pretty smoothly now, especially we've been doing automatic updates and things have been going well. We've run into some pretty big issues that haven't been able to be resolved yet. So the page isn't very functional as far as sending money in. But it's actually still pretty easy. So if you have PayPal, which a lot of people do, you can just go ahead and go in your PayPal and send it to the Daily Ratings Production Co. It's whatever amount. You can write a note in there, or you can send it to tom.vin@thedailyratings.com. That's our email. So just like Matt D wrote a note and we read it, that's the whole point of this segment here. It's the producer segment.
Absolutely.
We're going to give you a shout out. We're going to say how much you donated, but we're going to read a note that you wrote. Whether it's questions, comments, critiques of the show, we want to know. You're a producer. We want to know what you have issues with, suggestions you might have. It's very, very important to us. It's an automatic connection. It's a dialogue we can have in the process of you also showing us what value you're getting. So again, it's the Daily Ratings Production Co. If you have PayPal and want to send us via PayPal, but a lot of people have Venmo too. We're at Venmo. You can just send at the Daily Ratings is our Venmo.
Absolutely.
So you can send us whatever you want. Now, if you want to do a fun little one-time, Matt did a movie ticket. So if you want to go on the site, the donation page on the website, you can see what all those amounts are, and that's fun. Until we get that back up and running, we might just honestly ditch the page and have to do something completely different and make a new donation page. We'll see. We love having it at our hub, the home base, the website, thedailyratings.com. We're really going to treat it as our hub and build out as we build. We have some great ideas for that in the future. So anyway, it's the Daily Ratings Production Co. If you want to send it to PayPal, it's at the Daily Ratings if you want to do it Venmo. That's, all in all, that's actually not too difficult.
No, it's but
just
especially for anyone that has donated before, we want to keep things consistent.
Yes.
And believe me, the troubles with the website is the last thing either of us want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's annoying.
You'll be sleeping through more films.
The whole point, we want to do a better and better product we can.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating for us when something like this on the tech side, it's nothing that Vin and I did.
Exactly.
It's just this damn program that we got set up with. That's
damn
just
machine.
Really frustrating. But listen, and the funny thing is Matt D was a producer this week because he let us know about it. So that was a huge deal. And he still came through on the PayPal and gave a great note. Again, you can leave a note on the PayPal thing. I know there's a character limit. Don't be afraid. tom.vin@thedailyratings.
Absolutely.
If you hit us up via Venmo, if you hit us up PayPal, also, I know there are a few listeners out there who are very podcasting 2.0 aware and know what's going on with that. We accept Satoshis. You can go online, send us Satoshis.
Absolutely.
We have a Get Alby account. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I know there's a few of you awesome people out there who know what's up with Satoshis.
Yeah.
So we accept, and sometimes with sending a Boostagram, how much you want to type in that little box. Again, tom.vin@thedailyratings.com. And I'll just give one more shout out to Matt D. Matt D has continually been a producer through all of these shows. I mean, he's been here since the very beginning. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. One thing I often say every week is I can see that we're growing every week. We can see the numbers on the back end, and more and more people are listening. A cool thing to see is we're in a lot of states. We are getting out of our little Keystone state here. A lot of people around. Well, you have some world international, but. A lot in this country, all around in the 50 states that are listening to the podcast. So we know you're out there. It's great that you're listening. We hope you're telling people about it. Clearly, you might be a little bit.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, don't forget, it takes a lot of time to do. It's not just watching 5 movies, which is a huge dedication Vin has to do each week. He's also sitting down for hours and hours just to write the notes. I'm doing stuff on the back end here with the podcast and getting it set up.
And sleep where he can.
Getting the episodes out. We have the newsletter that comes out every Tuesday morning as well.
Yep.
So you can sign up for that at the bottom of the website if you're interested in getting that newsletter every week. But it's a lot of work for me and Vin, and we want to keep this a value-for-value model, completely producer-supported. So just don't forget about that. If you're enjoying this podcast, you've been around for a few episodes, if you're liking it, it doesn't have to be a lot of money at all. If $3 is a lot of money, we can't tell you how much that means to us. It
Absolutely.
shows that you're really liking it, you're engaged. And again, you can write in a note along with it, just like Matt D. So, all right, that's enough with that. That's kind of how you can reach us for now as far as if you want to donate, PayPal, Venmo, Satoshis.
Yep.
We thank you also, Matt. Matt D, once again, executive producer of 109, and we'll just keep this going. So
I'll get back to you on the greatest achievement in cinematic history.
Okay, Vin. So this is our last film. This is our newly in theaters. This is the brand new The Hunger Games. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Way too long of the title. Don't like these titles.
Yeah.
It's got, I have an issue with it. The weird thing is this does not have the buzz around it that maybe you think that it would. I think there's straight up people that have no idea that another one was coming out.
So what I do with some of these series dives that I do, I talk to people that are mega fans of the series.
Okay.
Just to get, without looking into too much online, because I want to be fresh when I come to this,
Right.
just to kind of get a gauge of like, hey, what's the fan favorite? What really hooked you on the series? And to the handful of people I talked to about it, they had no idea this was being released, nor that the book was released in like 2020 or something like that. So
that's weird.
Yeah, especially just failure in marketing.
I was going to say definitely a big marketing problem there.
Yeah.
Because no one was really asking for it
for sure.
But what they try to do with this, I think, is interesting. So definitely spend some time, set this film up for us, and then tell us how'd you like it.
Well, it is a prequel. Trying to be a kind of not a villain origin story, but definitely be the origin story of President Snow, which as one of the highlights of the franchise as a good bad guy all the way through, even to kind of a subpar end of the part 1 and part 2 of Mockingjay, was something that I was, again, a little excited for, probably. If fans aren't excited, I don't know. I don't know where I'm landing on that, but the return of this series, it might seem a little uncalled for, both by fans and general audiences alike. But once again, it's a real novel. It's not just a cash grab. Suzanne Collins is on the writing credit. I found myself maybe misguidedly a bit excited for it. The sole reason this week wasn't pulling teeth is because I enjoy world building in sci-fi, as I've said now a few times on this episode.
Yes, you have. Yes.
I just love unpacking, different dystopian worlds, just how it all works together. If anything, the 2-part finale didn't hit for me because we almost learned nothing new about how the dystopia functions, and I think it didn't work for general audiences as well, losing that competition story structure. So a prequel not only set 64 years in the past, not only returning to a Hunger Games story structure that we're going to actually have the games go on.
Right.
I feel like it was an opportunity to have some fun in the setting without Katniss and the rebellion kind of taking a piss over everything. You know what I mean?
Back to its roots a little bit.
Yeah.
I like the origin story a little. Well, I guess it's not. What are we in, like, at Hunger Games number 10?
Yes,
or something?
It's 10.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
with the J-Law ones, we're at 75.
Right.
Okay, so I kind of like the idea, the origins a little bit. 10 years into this early idea of complete psychopathy.
Right. Yeah.
This I like, honestly, and I was kind of excited.
Wow.
I don't know. I was doing more. I was doing more lore research, not having a chance to watch things.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't asking for the films,
Right,
but now that they're here, okay.
Where do we land as critics, Tom? When we are more excited than the fans
Maybe
for a
that's
franchise?
I don't know
where.
A problem.
Yeah. That's when the concept is going to go nowhere. But in the longest sequel name imaginable, Teenage President Snow, played by Tom Blythe, I think his name is, is a young aristocrat that is forced to participate in the first round of mentoring for the 10th annual Hunger Games. This is actually not really something I mentioned, but in the main Hunger Games films, there is a mentor assigned to the district tributes. Mainly, Woody Harrelson is who is assigned as one of the many aristocrats, trying to let Katniss win and help her out as much as possible. This inner look at Panem's elites show us pivotal figures, including the first wave of maniacal intellectuals and game makers that dreamt up the horrors of the Hunger Games. Only 10 years into the games, however, the nation of Panem has already lost their taste for blood. They're bored with this, and that is what spawns this idea of spectacle, to grab viewership and to assign these mentors to make something out of these contestants that don't particularly want to try, even if there was.
Right.
Snow is assigned to Lucy Gray, played by Rachel Zegler, who has been on the rise and in a lot of news lately for a lot of different reasons.
Very true.
She plays a kind of an eccentric gypsy from District 12, and out of an unexpected spin, with this being the first televised, the first really sensationalized Hunger Games, she has a voice and is an artist that separates her from the pack on, very much what is going to become the Hunger Games being about spin, sponsorship, and money-making, ultimately. Right off the bat, an origin story for the Big Bad Emperor initially sounds interesting. I feel like this movie has identical appeal to the prequel Star Wars movies. Hey, we're paying attention to find out how Anakin becomes Darth Vader. In kind of this way, thankfully it's only one movie.
Yeah. And I'll step in real quick because I like the idea of that. That's when I was doing the lore research and everything. Mm-hmm. When you hear prequel or just like how far back are we going, it's like, okay, we're not seeing J-Law 15 years earlier.
No.
We're not even seeing Woody Harrelson. This is like our oldest character that we've known. We're seeing him as a young character. Yeah. So we're seeing, that's the thing, that Snow character, Cornelius Snow,
yes,
or whatever. Yeah, he is the big baddie ruler.
Absolutely.
In the current ones that we just talked about, now we see him as this role of
just an up and coming version of himself. He's kind of misplaced among the aristocracy.
What's the role called again? He's
just president. Yeah. Oh, no, he's a mentor.
He's a mentor. Yeah. But I like the fact that it's just like, oh, okay, we're taking the oldest character we know and seeing his beginnings.
Yeah.
Going back 65 years. That to me, it's a decent amount of jump.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of prequels kind of just lately or in TV that's over the past 15 years that it's not a big enough jump in my mind. You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
So they set up a little bit for you. You know the little bit of the lore watching these films, and now stepping back that far, I kind of like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because none of the characters will be recognizable except for our one old guy that we know.
Yeah, and if we're going to do it, making it about the origin story of the main bad guy, the emperor of all the bad. I think that's where it's a satisfying itch to scratch. Mm-hmm. So, getting to see how he slipped down the road of evil is, once again, a nugget for excitement for me prior to watching this film. Watching the film, I was less excited. Okay. They really clock up the cartoonish aspects here of the evil empire. But I got to say, Blythe, as far as his acting, unfortunately, does not pull it off. This was nowhere near the depths of all the bad teen performances in the franchise, but really falling short of making me miss Jennifer Lawrence or making me miss just solid performances from our main character. Being the backbone for actually holding up these movies.
I thought he had a good look to him. Do you know him from other things?
He did one Western show recently, but nothing that I recognized other than that.
Okay.
I think he did like a Billy the Kid episode show.
Okay.
So
his character in this film, and maybe I'm totally off here, I just have to go off trailers, stills, and things like that. Does he look like Robert Downey Jr.'s character? Not Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Tropic Thunder, not blackface, but when the actual Australian, like blue-eyed, blonde hair Australian.
Definitely a little bit. I see exactly what you're going for. Because there's really not much to go off of that one, the fake trailer, but it's where he takes down the hood. But
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's all I got.
Maybe, yeah. Because that's all I got. Oh, man.
Anyway, so that's him, because he's a little bit unknown as far as the actor's concerned.
Yes.
Rachel Zegler, we're starting to know her more and more.
Right. And really, it should be inverse, at least for the casting, because it's his story. This is still a romance, you know what I mean? So it is going to fit into what the other films kind of genre-wise, actually how they play out. Yeah, Zegler kind of outshines him almost in every single scene, intentionally by the plot.
Yeah.
But also just in this casting performance as well. So, of course, the story, like I said, is still romance-focused, but the movie flip-flops on his depiction, Snow's depiction, that is, used as a valid romantic interest and a supervillain that he needs to become. It really does flop back and forth in an odd way that doesn't seem like it ever gets traction and is nowhere close to the strong, and I mean strong character writing put into Katniss as a main character prior to this. That counts for Zegler and Bly. Mm-hmm. I will note that the last act of this has an interesting reset and actually tries to test Snow's character in a role reversal of the similar type of plot beats that the series is known for, but that's about as much praise as I have to give for the main pieces here. The Hunger Games themselves are once again boring action set pieces, despite the retro future throwback, with more token deaths than ever. Really, it's just like... what? Really? It is just so inconsequential that it needs 2 tributes per district, because we never get to meet more than 8. You know what I mean?
That's a shame. That really is a shame.
Yeah.
Make the deaths cooler and meaningful. And, like, let us know the characters a little bit more.
Absolutely. And that's where I go back to a little bit of my critique of the rules of the game, because it's like, that's not just for background noise, or that's not just for context. That is an opportunity as a writer that you can use rules to crank up tension and actually have it hit the audience and be real for them.
Yeah.
Hit for me, at least. So I have to watch these movies. I suppose setting this in the past writes itself into a little bit of a box, because this is the first time the show has been televised on air and can only be so groundbreaking. But the Battle Royale haters really can rejoice on this one, because nothing creative is done with the action itself. And sad to see for the return of this franchise, you know, with plenty of years. What, we're talking 8 years now?
That it ended.
Right.
Yeah. We're picking up 8 years later,
8 years, you know, production-wise, for the film to come back. A positive area... And we're going to have to unpack this, because this is a doozy. I did not expect this to go as hard as it did. But stylistically, the film has this retro future vibe, to everything. And while it could easily slip into kind of Easter eggs for the franchise littering every shot, it does something much different. If anything, to your point about if you don't set it back far enough, I feel like that's where the film becomes only about Easter eggs. It's just like, oh, that's Katniss as a baby. Oh, this is this person young.
You could fall into that for sure.
Yeah. There's even with watching the series, there's certainly some, but it does not concern itself with that, and is so far back. I mean, 64 years. It removes that entirely.
Yeah.
Turns out, though, my thoughts on comparing this to Lucas's Star Wars prequels were more dead on than I could imagine. This time jump is an excuse to show how, truly evil, like deliciously evil, Pan Am really is, and the insane personalities that lay the groundwork for the games. Supporting actors are a pedigree that is pretty great across all of these, and I'm glad that it continues from the original trilogy. But Viola Davis has a downright unhinged performance in this. Yeah, it's wild. I mean,
in a great way?
In a so bad it's good way, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look up a picture of her.
I see it.
Yeah, you see.
So she's trying to be the Tucci. Is that a good comparison?
No. No, her character, prospectively, we never met a game maker before. We've met like Right Hand Men and different things like that.
Okay, sure, yeah.
We've never met like a foundational character like her. Let me tell you, both her and Peter Dinklage characters have taken such a cartoonish extreme here. It really... I can't say it feels like the series at all anymore.
I thought the whole point is over the top and crazy. It's that one.
Not like this.
It's, okay.
Not like
and
this.
Viola Davis, she's usually like stoic.
Oh, sure.
And like badass and cool. She's the one good thing about that horrible superhero movie.
Suicide Squad, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Here, I can't say
like
she's...
the Woman King, you know?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here it is unreal. My jaw. I was Katniss in the last two part of the finale. My jaw was on the floor. I was like, what are they putting on screen? It is unreal. You know, in concept, I like the idea of Snow being nurtured by these like insane people, and that's what produces an evil leader.
Sure.
But I'm not kidding, folks. I do not make this comparison lightly. This shit is taken to an unusual extreme, and I would put Viola's performance side by side with Emperor Palpatine in The Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, really?
It is that hammy. It is that deliciously garbage. It is that so bad it's good. It is unreal.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I was really split on it too, because enjoyment wise, I was like, oh yeah,
right.
This is great. Like, but I don't know. I more am split on it.
You know what?
The longer I sit with the film, I'm like, I don't know if that can
if they're this, and you're not just talking it up. If you're having this reaction,
it is. Yeah.
This reminds. I love what you said with it, where it's like maybe you need these crazy, over the top crazy.
Yeah.
And that's how we get Snow.
Sure.
And even at an older age, she's almost like a tame version of this.
Exactly.
You know what? This reminds me of like you think Gordon Ramsay is mean in the kitchen. The guy he actually learned from was a straight psychopath.
Oh, right.
Maybe it's a little bit of that.
Absolutely. You know, what he's being nurtured by, what he comes up in.
Right.
But let me tell you.
Okay, this is you're selling tickets right now, I think, man.
So it's already going to be out of the box office by the time we post this. I mean, just pull up a screen grab. She's Dr. Gruel or something like that as the character. She's got two different colored eyes. She's got a crazy gray salt and pepper fro. She wears what looks like blood-soaked clothing. I mean, I don't want to question Suzanne Collins too much, because I haven't wrote a hyper successful trilogy of novels and this coming back to it, but I don't know. I'd be really interested to hear her thoughts on why she went with such a conceptually bold design on everything. You know, this now pull the camera back a little bit on the retro future style, on the foundation of these Hunger Game leaders and these radicals within the government.
I think ultra elitist to an extreme just means ultra gaudy and over the top, essentially.
Yeah.
Because everything is, super colorful.
Oh, for sure.
Super bombastic, just over the top, just more and more, like each generation.
Yeah.
The crazy elites get even more crazy.
Right, they get more and more disconnected with reality.
Yes, exactly right.
I guess here, with it 10 years after like the big war that sparked the whole thing, maybe they have a mix of wartime and that, disconnecting with the elitists. But delicious garbage is the mark. Definitely so bad it's good vibes. So, take that if you want it.
Okay.
I would say this one is for the fans, but once again, not in your typical Easter egg way, which I want to give a little bit of credit for. This one was for the fans that can't get enough of the world, that were probably ecstatic for Collins releasing this prequel book back in 2020. What I realized was my interest for that world had run a little bit dry, even with all of this campiness, all this cartoonishness, which I found totally acceptable and fun, if anything. Luckily, the film does not create any sort of sequel bait, so I think this serves as one last crazy ride in this dystopian romance. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get ready for the title, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a 51.
Wow, just a 51, just a tick. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just a tick. I feel like
there's something there that's better than a coin toss.
Exactly.
It's slightly in the favor of give it a watch or something.
Exactly. And I feel like it also is on the end of 4 movies as well. I don't see there's any kind of watch case for you picking this one up. If it's only for Viola, if it's for anything, and in that, it's
because we didn't touch too much. I mean, so basically, was it 2 hours and 40 minutes? You know, was there a lot of backstory?
40?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You know, and that's the thing. Is it a lot of? I don't know. There's probably not too much catch up.
No,
right?
More so, like I said, in the last act, things really get reshuffled quite a bit.
Okay.
And of course, not going into the spoilers of it, but like, if anything, the movie resets in a way that you kind of forget about all the Hunger Games and all the society stuff, and it's much smaller for that reason in the romance.
Okay, because I believe she came out with multiple books. Like, this is supposed to be a trilogy, I believe.
No, I think this is a one-off, even in the book.
Oh, really?
Space.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From what I researched, obviously,
I should have looked that up.
Money is the biggest incentive.
Of course.
So,
I mean, the biggest question is, again, no one was asking for this film. People didn't even know about it. Did you find it worth it in any way? You found it 1% worth it?
Yeah,
at a 51%.
but also worth it enough to keep it out of, even for the finales of the original.
Yeah,
not good movies. This was serviceable kind of a cherry on top if you really love the world building like I did. So.
Okay, so I have a few ender questions here. So the big thing for me is, 5 films now. Okay, and if I just want to throw something on as an easy watch. Is this Hunger Games homework, or can I pick up wherever? Can I drop a needle on one of these movies? Not in one of the movies, but like just pick a random movie and feel confident that I know enough what's going on.
Interesting. This one specifically?
Any of them.
I would definitely say that with, if anything, my recommendation walking away from this week is just watch Catching Fire. I feel like it gets you all the beats of it.
You would know what's going on still?
Yeah, also probably strongest romance-wise as well.
Okay.
For what it's worth.
So would you even say that the first one is absolutely necessary?
No, not really. Okay. I mean, not more than maybe seeing the very early moments of how Katniss's character comes to be.
Okay.
But again, character work around Katniss and Jennifer Lawrence's performance solid across the board.
Okay.
So,
very good.
Yeah, I think if you want to give it a dive, Catching Fire. So much so that I would not mind watching Catching Fire.
Wow.
I know that's insane to say.
That's kind of cool, though. I like that you came away with that.
Yeah.
What is our best world-building movie? What is our best battle royale movie?
So
if you want to watch the best battles.
Best Battle Royale is probably Battle Royale from 2000. The Japanese movie.
Right.
Yeah. I would say it's Catching Fire once again because you don't get annoying teens. Like the combatants are actually like they're interesting. Like, oh, what's this one going to bring to the table?
Best world building then.
Maybe the first one. Because the first one is the concept.
Okay, it's setting us up.
Yeah, that is the introduction to how drastic this. We go from poverty to seeing this like crazy society. That is full credit to the first.
What would you do if you only had to watch 2, where you had like a week, like a Saturday free? What did you think about watching the latest one and then going to Catching Fire?
Yeah, maybe, or just vice versa, because we do get some good.
So that's how
moments.
unimportant it is having to watch that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And again, this is coming from the person that's saying skip part of the finale entirely. So,
and then another question I have: do you think that this? I mean, this is the big question: is this better as a TV show?
Oh,
because that's in my entire.
I feel like it could be very ripe for a TV show.
I think
as
so.
A premise.
Each book could be a season.
Sure.
You know,
or even stretching out. I mean, that could be a good way to give substance to the actual games themselves. Stretch out the minor beats of who's dying and whatnot.
They would become like survival episodes.
Absolutely.
You know, and they would actually get more in depth of how they're surviving. You get closer to some characters then, so the deaths would have more impact.
Yeah,
it's not like just just 6 die immediately.
Right, and it really is that. Like, I think they die in bunches.
Right,
you know?
I think a TV show could just do better at one world building and kind of give that action that people are there to see a little bit.
Yeah, and if anything, my main critique about how we don't give a damn about 24 contestants, maybe that's the key to stretch out the time and give us more time to find out about the contestants then.
Okay.
So,
all right, so we both agree on that. I think it really would make a better show.
Yeah.
Because now, let's say that original series, now you have second series, which can jump back in time.
Sure.
Peter Dinklage dressing up again? for 3 seasons or whatever. Keep them around.
3 seasons.
It's fantastic.
Or maybe you understand that every 25 years it's a big version of the games. Maybe we tackle the 50s or something. You know what I mean?
We should give them some money from this Collins lady. And then I just, while you were going through all this, it just struck, boom, a light bulb went on in my head.
Okay.
We need a new compilation on the site.
Oh, okay.
And it would be labeled climate-controlled domes. Climate-controlled domes. We have all of the Hunger Games.
Yep.
Okay. We have King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yes.
Because his dome looks just like the Hunger Games dome.
For sure.
Right? He's not in it much, but it's in.
Right.
Truman Show.
Yes, absolutely. Dome aesthetic.
Yeah. I mean, he's
dome
in a dome.
core.
Yeah. And weather control. We can do weather control. Yeah, climate controlled dome.
Sure.
That's what I have down. And I think if we have one more, we're golden.
I'm spitballing here. The Pauly Shore 90s stoner comedy Biodome.
I love it. And we're good to go. Okay.
We're there. It's there.
So maybe a compilation coming to you soon on the site. Again, another just wonderful thing to check out on the dailyratings.com.
Yes. Enriching your film watching.
Vin, any notes left for here? I think that was a great deconstruction of this series. Any notes here? Anything coming up? We have a lot of new releases coming up.
Yeah, a lot of new releases. We are going into a heavy December just because everything was pushed. And then, just in general, there's a lot of film releases that may not be like super wide, but nonetheless will show their face during Oscar time.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell you what, next week I'm just excited to call heads or tails on Napoleon. I just want to see if Ridley,
definitely.
Scott, where's he at? Where's he at this time?
Lately, it hasn't been good. Yeah. He came out with a comment saying like, in the amount of time that Scorsese was working on Killers of the Flower Moon, I came out with 5 films.
Right.
And it's like, maybe that's a problem.
Maybe that's
Have
not
you seen
good.
your films that have you released lately?
Yeah, for real.
Always have high hopes.
Yeah.
Especially for Joaquin and Ridley together.
Sure.
You want it to be good. But,
another time with Vanessa Kirby. Gorgeous.
Sure. We loved Vanessa Kirby.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for watching these.
For catching fire, or for being hungry.
We appreciate you stopping by here with us tonight. So folks at home will run this down one more time. We have The Hunger Games with a 63%. The Hunger Games Catching Fire with a 66%. We have The Hunger Games Mockingjay-Part 1 with a 40%. The Hunger Games Mockingjay-Part 2 with a 49%. And The Hunger Games The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes with a 51%. Folks, we thank you so much for listening. We thank you, Matt D, for executive producing this episode. And folks, we will see you next week, as always, on the Daily Ratings Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or tell a friend about us. If you're wondering if a film is worth the watch, or if you'd just like to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer and go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel you received from us. We're looking to build this into something large and great, folks, but we want to be independent from all those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.